This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
And don't forget, whether it's iOS or Android, tap that app. Tap it. So make sure you download Tap That app and get your favorite liquor delivered to your door.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Anthony, how you doing, my brother? How you feeling? You feeling good?
I'm doing well, Big O. Much better than the last time we spoke when I think we spoke the day after that whole sideline incident and all that.
Yes.
Much better in Heatland right now.
Yes. So, the way I looked at it is it's got to go three ways there, right? It's got to go whether, okay, it was an incident, water under the bridge. Sometimes you have disagreements with your buddies and friends or family members, and then, there's lots of love there. So you have a disagreement, you hug it up, you move on, boom. Two, disagreement stays in the background, but you're professional enough to overcome it, put it on the back burner, and go do your job. That's kind of what the Knicks were in the early 70s. Their title was 12 guys, 12 cabs, because they didn't get along. Or the third one, it is a problem, it festers, and it continues to create issues the rest of the year. Which one of the three are the Miami Heat?
Well, initially, I think the 2 games after that all happened, they lost both. They lost to the Knicks, which was one of the worst losses of the season. They wasted double-digit fourth quarter lead, and they get blown out at home by the Nets. So things did not look good initially right after all that unfolded. But I think the encouraging thing is it's not like they just flipped the switch. There were some pretty significant changes that Eric Spoelstra made to the rotation in the wake of not only the argument, but also the losing streak. And they've paid off. I mean, you've seen it. The offense has been a lot better. The defense has not. Usually with this team, the trade-off is you put out better offensive players out there and the defense suffers because of it. That hasn't been the case. The offense has been better. The defense has been just as good or even better than before. And they've, Strus in the starting lineup has been a positive change. And then playing more shooters around guys like Bam and Jimmy has helped as well. Those lineups with Tyler, Duncan, and Jimmy, and then Jimmy playing at the 4 next to either Bam or Dedmon have worked. So I think you're seeing that it's cliche what Spo said when that all happened, that he likes these type of stretches in the season because it brings out issues that you have to address and you need to address them. And it's better it happens before the playoffs. And I think that's what happened. There were some issues offensively that were even before the losing streak, when they were winning, you saw it. And I'm not saying they're all fixed, but I think they took a step in a positive direction with this new rotation and the new lineups they're putting out there.
All right. So you think they put it away and it's done, or they put it on the back burner and they can live with it? Which one or two? Because certainly it isn't a problem that's festering.
Right.
So
no, I don't think so. I definitely think they moved past it.
Okay.
I think you've covered this team even longer than I have, Big O. You know what Pat Riley's culture is like. He likes confrontation.
Yeah.
He likes guys to be brutally honest with each other. And Spo is from the Pat Riley tree. And I've heard behind the scenes, we might not see it publicly, but Spo is going to be honest with you. He's going to tell you what you might not want to hear. We saw it publicly at that point, but I don't think that's. And you saw Dwayne Wade say it on TNT a few nights later. That's a Tuesday with the Miami Heat. Like that stuff happens all the time behind the scenes. So yeah, it wasn't ugly. It was ugly, but I really don't think it's not like unusual for this team for that to happen.
All right. Speaking of ugly, Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
That's ugly. That's okay. So here's where let's start to look at let's go macro and not micro now, because micro is saying, well, he's struggling. Okay, start Strus. Okay, that's great. That's fine. All right, now let's go macro and let's start thinking about the deeper issues now. You've given this guy a ginormous contract. They are stuck in the middle of, they need to play him to kind of make sure to prove to people that he's fine so they can deal him in the offseason. But if he continues to fail and fall by the wayside and gives you a bunch of these zeros, eventually everybody's going to pass him, and then he'll have no value for you to trade him in the offseason. So even if the Heat want to make a move, it's almost like they're in a rock and a hard place where
Right.
they've got to win now, so they've got no choice. But it's also going to put them in a real disadvantage in trying to get value for Duncan Robinson in the offseason, even if you try to get value for him. So can you talk about being in that position for the Miami Heat of trying to win now, but
Right.
also not allowing an asset to completely die out
For
before
sure.
you can actually deal it?
For sure. And let me say, I've been a Duncan Robinson supporter, one of the bigger ones this season, even through his struggles. I still think he's really important to this team, even when he's not making shots. So that's why I think unless this team is in a 3-1 hole in the playoffs and it's out of desperation and they, someone replaces him in the rotation, I think he's going to be part of the playoff rotation. Just because, again, these changes were made with the goal of helping maximize Bam and Jimmy. And to maximize Bam and Jimmy, who are two guys who score in the paint and live in the paint, you need shooters. And yes, Caleb has made a high percentage of his threes this season. Victor Oladipo shot 6 of 9 last game, but the quote-unquote cliche of the gravity that a shooter has, I mean, Duncan Robinson and Max Strus are the two guys that have that gravity that will attract multiple defenders, no matter what they're shooting or in whatever slump they're in. So I think he's important.
But can I add a caveat to that? You are correct on that, but on the flip side of that is where Strus has to go over Duncan, and it also helps Bam and Jimmy. It's not about stretching; it's also being a liability. And at least Strus is a guy that's going to stay in front of his guy. Sometimes he'll defend the guy. Hell, sometimes he'll block the shot too. On top of all of that, these are things you never see from Duncan. So if both guys are hitting their shots, he's still a liability on defense. At least when you start Strus, you have a guy that is incredibly capable offensively, but also not a liability on defense. And I think that also hurts Jimmy and Bam. It's easy to talk about the offensive end, but I think you have to look at the defensive end and say, when you put that kid on the floor, and I'm talking about Duncan, he doesn't help you anywhere else outside of shooting. And that's a problem.
I get that. I think the Strus move to the starting lineup has worked. I think Strus is definitely a better defender than Duncan. He's a better rebounder. Definitely. We've seen that already. Better in the open court.
Basketball player.
He can better and the Heat, a big part of the Heat's offense is scoring the open court. And Max, we've seen it. He can finish in the open court. He's not a guy that he doesn't know what to do or he can't finish. He needs to pass to somebody else. He'll finish. So that helps alone right there. But I'm saying even off the bench, I think Duncan is going to be a part of the rotation because of what he does for the offense. I think the defense is good enough. I mean, it's been a top 5 all year. It's been pretty consistent all season. The big question mark with this team is the offense. Is the offense good enough?
But okay, wait a minute. Okay, so hold on a second. So what about tonight? Okay. What about if Depot gets another opportunity tonight and continues to shine? Why wouldn't you put Depot instead of Duncan? You may not get the same consistency at 3, although, hell, he was hitting a 3 from Miami High the other night. I mean, hell, what the hell was that?
That was a career night from 3, though.
I know it was. I know he's never hit 6 3-pointers. So I get all of that. But my point is, again, a multifaceted player that can help you all over the place.
Definitely.
What happens if in these last few games, and Oladipo does it again, you have to have Strus in there. Once you get Gabe Vincent back and Caleb in the mix, these are guys that help you out other ways too, because Gabe helps you as a shooter and helps you run the offense. These are multifaceted players. Duncan becomes the only guy that is not multifaceted in your rotation.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying these are easy decisions. I also, Vic he looked very good in Toronto. He looked very good. But I don't know if he's going to have that role with the ball in his hands that much if Jimmy's playing, right? I mean, Jimmy was out that night. A lot of guys were out that night. So, and again, tonight, if Kyle's out, which it looks like he might get the night off, Victor might start for all we know. But again, when they're healthy, Victor needs the ball in his hands. And I think that was part of the issue, in those first few games back when the team was healthy. It was hard to kind of integrate him to the offense, and how was he really helping Bam and Jimmy? So again, this whole thing is about helping Bam and Jimmy become the best offensive players they can be. Victor helps in a lot of different ways. I don't know how much he makes Bam and Jimmy better. So that I think Duncan makes Bam and Jimmy better offensive players just because of the spacing he provides. But I'm not saying, like I said, if they're down 2-1, 3-1 in the series, Duncan's in a big shooting slump, Spo might turn to Victor and say, Victor, give me what you got. I want to see if you can provide that spark. That's the beauty of this roster. They have the depth to make moves like that. And I think these last 3 games will be important for Victor. We're going to see, as the guys get nights off here, and then, down the stretch of the season, Victor's going to get an opportunity. Does he play like that again, or maybe isn't his 6 threes, but does he make another step forward in his step process of getting back to who he was? I mean, we'll see if that was a 1-game blip or if it really is a sign of he's feeling a lot more comfortable and healthy.
Where are they health-wise, by the way, with some of the guys?
I mean, there's 6 guys that are questionable right now. Kyle Lowry is questionable for rest. So again, it looks like he's gonna get the night off. PJ Tucker, Dwayne Dedman, all minor injuries. Looks like Jimmy and Bam will play. But again, I think, especially if they clinch here, I mean, if they win tonight and Boston loses tomorrow against the Bulls,
I'm laying the 5.5, Anthony. So you better tell them that they need to win tonight. Okay, I'm just
they can have the 1 seed clinch by tomorrow night. If they win tonight and Boston loses tomorrow, they can have the 1 seed clinched by tomorrow night. The final 2 games then become obviously useless.
That's why I'm betting this game, because one, they're 3-0 against them. They've beaten them every time except once over 5.5 points, and that was the double overtime game. And I think they're going to be incredibly motivated to put these guys out, so then they can then rest the next 2 games, and we'll see a mishmash lineup in those next 2 games. And Yurtsevin is like, yeah, baby, I'm gonna play a lot.
He's been waiting. I spoke with him last week. He's like eager to get out there and play.
By the way, you have a speaker on. Turn your speaker down, because that's giving a little echo there.
Sorry.
But yeah, so because you don't have any headsets or anything, you can't hear me?
No, I don't have my headsets right now. I'll do that next time.
That's why. Okay, all right. So we'll get you the headsets next time. All right. So anyway, we look at this at the lineup today. So if Lowry's out, you expect, is it Gabe Vincent going to be in, or what's the deal? What's going on?
It could be Gabe Vincent, but knowing Spo, or I guess Chris Quinn tonight, if Spo does not coach, it could be Victor. I mean, he doesn't like messing with the rotation, right? Victor is a guy who hasn't been playing. You keep the bench rotation intact. You put Victor in the starting lineup. I mean, maybe that's the way to go. We'll see. I do think with Kyle being listed as questionable because of rest, just seems like a night off for him. And maybe next game it's Bam who gets a night off. Jimmy got the night off a few nights ago. So I think they're just gonna. There's no long-term concern with these injuries. It's a matter of just giving guys time this late in the year with the playoffs around the corner.
No, I would imagine that's kind of the key there, is just giving them the kind of stretch it out. For tonight, Charlotte, do they have any serious injuries? I know they just got back Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, I don't think there's nobody on their injury report, and they have a lot to play for. They're tight right there in that play, and they're trying to get maybe up to that 7 or 8 spot, so they only have to win 1 to get into the playoffs in that play-in tournament. And even if they get 9 or 10, if they get 9, they get home court in that first round. So they have arguably more to play for than the Heat tonight, because the Heat looks like, even if they have to win 2 out of 3 to control their own destiny for the 1 spot, but they're in pretty good position to finish at number 1. Even if they just get 1 of these 3 games, because at that point they'll just need 1 loss from one of the other teams to clinch the 1 spot.
With Max Strus, what's his contract situation?
He's on a minimum deal next year again. Team option.
Okay.
Same as Gabe Vincent. So they Omar Yurtseven, team control. They set up the contracts of both Gabe and Max and Omar Yurtseven. Team options, minimum deal next year. So he'll be a free agent in 2 years, but next year again, the Heat have him at a really team-friendly salary.
So what's the deal with Caleb? What do they have to do to not risk or try to avoid losing him? Because out of all those young guys, him and Strus are my favorite too. I think those 2 guys are. This is why I want you to move Duncan in the offseason, because I want you to keep Strus and Caleb Martin. I think those guys are perfect Heat players, dude.
Yeah, Caleb is interesting because if it really depends on if they're able to shed salary and if what the market is for Caleb Martin. They're going to have the exception money to keep him, but is that going to be enough?
Right.
8-9 million, I don't know. And again, if they don't shed salary and they sign up to that exception, they're going to be in the tax. So it's going to be tight. There are ways and creative ways I'm sure the Heat will try to pull off to keep him. But if the market explodes for Caleb Martin because he has been very good this season and he's young, the Heat might have to make a tough decision and let him go. But I'm sure they're going to try to keep him if the price is right.
Is there going to be a market for Duncan Robinson?
There's always a market for shooters. His contract obviously is not ideal. 3 more years. Really, I think it's 2 more years. That fourth year of the deal is not exactly 100%. It's not 100% guaranteed.
Okay.
So it's really 2 more years with some partial guarantees in the 4th year. But I think the reason Duncan's contract is important, and I'm not saying they're going to trade him. We'll see. But this team is so top heavy with their roster. And to make salaries match, if you want to bring in a Dame Lillard or a Bradley Beal in a trade, you need to have salary to send out. Tyler Hero is obviously the young piece that's attractive and that teams want. But he's even next year, even if he signs an extension, he's a $4 or $5 million salary. Duncan is, double digits, 15, 16 million. So that salary is important to making the numbers work. Yeah, maybe alone teams might not want Duncan's contract, but if it's attached to a young asset, then it becomes more appealing. So Duncan's contract is an important trade chip for the Heat, in that scenario.
All right, what are you working on in the Miami Herald so they can check you out, Mr. Chiang?
Yeah, I'm really interested in all the rotations. I'm just the rotation changes and kind of what they're doing with Jimmy and Bam and how they're unlocking different parts of their game is really interesting to me. So I'm working on a piece about that and kind of exploring how it's helped the offense and helped in particular Bam and Jimmy and how it might translate to the playoffs. And then other than that, we're just monitoring the standings. I mean, we don't know who the Heat are going to play. There's 6 possible teams that the Heat could play. Brooklyn being one of them, which would be obviously a very interesting series. Just monitoring the standings and kind of just trying to figure out, what the rotation is going to be and if this rotation will stick in the playoffs.
Follow him on Twitter, by the way, at Anthony_Chang, and more importantly, catch his work there at the Miami Herald. Subscribe and support, please, our local journalists. They do an excellent, excellent job. Anthony, thank you for taking some time. Your initial a liquor split Miami Heat report, baby. Thanks, job.
Big. I'll have headphones next time. I apologize.
Yes, headphones. We want no echo. We'll catch
problem.
you later on in the week, my friend. Appreciate you.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
You got it. There you go. The great Anthony Chiang.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.